Hi, my name is Jim Osmond. I'm doing a wall piece for this show, Wall Works. This is pigmented plaster on the sheetrock wall, and I'm treating the whole wall because I have three sides of this little stub here as an object. So the things I do on this side transition around to the front and all the way around to the other side. So I'm kind of trying to treat the whole thing as almost like a stacked object versus a wall drawing. The front of the piece is based on this brick pattern called random ashlar. This means the stones are shaped so they fit really tight and there's a very small joint. And I'm treating the edge of this wall as if it's made out of sticks, built block or built stone. And then I'm taking these forms which come out of typography, they're called furniture. And it's kind of the idea of language as a structure. So these were used in early printing in typography to create negative space or white space on a page. You put a box that was a little lower than the text. So that to make a white space you needed a real thing. And I just like the idea of an object to make nothing. So this is done with acrylic paint mixed into a joint compound, which they use for sheetrocking. And I've skimmed out the wall a few times, and then I, again, draw and then tape off, and then plaster it. And then when I pull the tape off, I get these pieces almost like cast into the wall. Just by chance, I started putting pigment into the plaster and the compound and putting it on the wall. And then I started to experiment with drawing and using taping, and started to set up these kind of hard-edged drawings I was doing.
Well, he does this series of paintings on translucent, and he cuts a few pieces, rectangles, and just hangs them on the wall, and they kind of overlap.
It gets a nice matrix. It gets a little like moire patterning happening maybe.
They look really effortless, which is kind of nice.
You showed a metaphor a few times. Scott Reed.
I do a large body of work which is called live transmission. I'm interested in life, and the first sign of life is movement. So I track the movement of people doing whatever they do. And I use both hands. I draw on paper with pencils, and these graphite drawings become kind of an archive of human activity bridging the two centuries, the 20th and the 21st centuries. Site-specific wall drawings that I've done. The largest one was the size of a football field or a soccer field. It's in Amsterdam, in a free university. And then the first one that I did in New York was at the Drawing Center in 1997. This is the painting center. And so the thing that interested me was to see if I could find a way of making it very, very site-specific, not just physically on the wall, but also conceptually, because most of my work is based in concepts. So I decided to make a drawing, a live transmission drawing, based on the movements of the hands of a painter working in his or her studio. So the original source drawing was the live transmission, the graphite drawing, so that when you look at the drawing on the wall, the white lines are the ones that come out of the negative space. So basically the drawing gets projected onto the wall, and then we paint the spaces between the lines. Lots of different people work on it. So you can see that there's a lot of different variety in the quality of line, and this adds to the kind of vitality of the drawing too, in a way that it manages to capture the initial vitality of the action that I'm recording or drawing, and then it transmits that vitality to the viewer. To do the pencil drawing, I draw methodically with multiple razor-sharp pencils in both hands as a time-based performance. I condense movement into accumulations of graphite line, which combine the controlled refinement of classical drawing with the unbound sensuality of spontaneous gesture. The time-space coordinates for each drawing are written across the bottom of the pencil drawing. In this case, the wall drawing will be entitled Portrait of a Painter at Work, because it tracks the movements of the hands of a painter in the studio working on paintings.
I'm Nancy Olivier. I'm very excited to be in this show. I've been doing wall paintings for a very long time. I think the first one I did was in 1992. My work ranges from very small to pieces this large. What I'm doing in this piece now, I've started a series of drawings. I've been working with a grid for a very long time, and now I'm squashing it and distorting it. And I like having layers where the colors make the shape recede or come forward, and might even make people dizzy when I have all the colors in there. I like working on paper, and this is really the most labor-intensive wall piece I've done because I'm actually drawing it. My work before was more process-oriented, where I could pour things and paint with a brush, but this is pen and ink. So it's very laborious, but I'm really enjoying doing it. This is kind of based on the grid of, I see things in my neighborhood. It's kind of a half-industrial neighborhood in Long Island City. And I find that I enjoy working with these things you see every day that you don't necessarily pay attention to. I've done a wall drawing that was 8 by 8 feet. It was the size of a sheet of plywood. And it was just graphite, and I just drew a sheet of plywood on the wall, and that was really funny. I love taking things out of their context and seeing what they do. It's like going to a new place. So, and this is based on a drawing that I did in my studio, my new studio. I did project it to do some of the drawing, but I'm not letting that keep me from improvising as I go. Even the stroke changed as soon as I started doing it. It's not smooth. It's very kind of jerky and segmented. What I like to call, I used it before, I call it a stuttered gesture. And I think it makes it more personal too. It's not really flat. When you get up close to it, it really doesn't look flat. So there's really more to it than meets the eye. And I like that change of context in that sense as well. 2 months ago, I started a series of these drawings based on pieces of wire and netting and chicken wire even. And this is coming out of that, but I'm trying to soften it. So I don't want it to be too recognizable as something as quotidian as chicken wire, but I wanted to suggest that there is a form in here. And you'll be able to see when I've got the other color in here that there's going to be almost a stereo effect, because I feel like the lines are supporting each other somehow, but it's all slipping away.
My name is Rob Nadeau. I'm an artist, painter, generally speaking. My first thoughts were like to do sort of a study or a bunch of studies and get something together that, was sort of finished, and then blow it up and put that on the wall and sort of be done with it, have it be like an extension of the images of my paintings or my drawings. But over the course of the past 9 months, I spent 6 months teaching down in Knoxville, Tennessee as an artist in residence there, and my studio process really came to the fore, and it became much more about working in a space and having a space and allowing the space to sort of be the canvas for the residue or the artifacts of my experience, if that makes any sense. So it kind of became, I started thinking about it like, okay, this isn't just going to be a wall painting, it's going to be me getting into the space, bringing in my archive or my collection of source material and things that I work from in the studio, and just allowing this to be the studio. And, wherever it ends at 10 p.m. Wednesday night is where it ends, and that's what it's at. I like the element of spontaneity or intuition or improvisation, all of that being sort of a big part of it. I'm interested in sort of mixing materials, you know, having things leaning against the wall, having things painted on the wall, having other finished pieces hanging on the wall within that, and you know, just sort of creating a larger free form environment. Artists and musicians, I think in the 60s and 70s a lot were doing stuff with space and music and time and light, and I've been thinking a lot about that recently. You know, the work itself isn't so temporal in the sense that it's like lights or motion graphics or video, but I kind of like that idea of, like, you know, being a person, like being a viewer, that you could sort of inhabit the painting, like you could inhabit the space of whatever the work is, and that you could experience it that way.